Thanks for joining us today. Today I want to challenge you to tell your story. And this is drawn from the book of Psalms 107, Psalm 107, and the verse is the second verse. Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story. Those he redeemed from the hand of the foe. Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story. And this is straight out of the Psalms, the Psalter, the prayer book of God's people. Tell your story. In order to tell your story, you need to be aware of your story. But you also need to take another step beyond that, and you need to own it. You need not to disown it. You need not to be in denial of it. You need to be aware of it and to own your story. In this particular verse, we are told about God's people, the redeemed. And redemption was similar to how we would use it, especially in the mobile telephone world, telecommunications world. When you're redeeming something, you're buying back. It's trading something. You are purchasing something. That is the language of redemption. And so what it implies is that these people of God were in bondage. They were in slavery, particularly slavery to the Egyptians. And the Lord redeemed them. He bought them out. He delivered them out of their bondage. And so the children of Israel are being challenged to tell that story, not to be ashamed of that story. And in this season, for us as CITAM, one of the big things that we are emphasizing is the evangelism, or rather the good news of what Jesus Christ has done for us, how he has purchased us, how he has bought us out of our bondage to the enemy, bondage to our sins, bondage to the dominion of darkness, and how he has lifted us up out of that territory. And he has given us a new citizenship. He has given us a new passport. He has given us new identity. He has renamed us from being slaves to sin to being free people of Christ. Do you know your story? Have you become aware of it? But secondly, have you owned that story? When you own it, you are not ashamed of it. And I think about that hymn that says, I am not ashamed to own my Lord. I am not ashamed of my Lord. Paul would say, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. And in order for us to be unashamed of the gospel, we also need to be unashamed of that which the gospel has delivered us from. Rather, we need to be unashamed of our story. We need to know part of my story was a story of slavery. There was slavery in my story. There was bondage in my story. But that's not the entirety of my story. My story includes redemption. It includes release from that captivity. So today, I want to challenge you to tell your story. Evangelism, sharing the gospel, is about Psalm 107, verse 2. It's about the redeemed of the Lord telling their story. Those who are redeemed from the hand of the foe, the enemy, sin, death, the devil, those who have been liberated from the foe are to have their lips and their mouths unbuttoned and to become more and more aware and to actually tell their story. This requires courage, and I pray that you be courageous enough to be vulnerable, to say, this is what the Lord has done in my life. And in our next video, I'm going to be telling you of a woman who told her story, and she was an unlikely evangelist. Keep watching. Let's link up again in our next video. God bless you.